Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for another episode of Fighting Fantasy Game Books. And today I'm doing the Aftermath episode of Starship Traveler. Or should I call it Afterpath, maybe? Because I'll reveal this right away. I just finished playing this, and I had a theory that in this book, it might be possible to get through it without having to fight, without having to use any skill rolls to actually get something you need. And I was right. In this book, if you know the correct optimum path through, you are guaranteed to win. So I'm not doing a simulation today because the chances of winning are 100%. That is to say, the big challenge is finding the right path. So Afterpath, yeah, see what I mean. And of course, finding the right path might actually be a little bit trickier in this one than in some of the other books. Even if you find the right path, you might not know it right away because you might have some wrong information that will actually mean that you end and die. If you choose the wrong combination for the black hole at the end, for instance. Unlike the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, where you can try a different key combination once you've tried the wrong one, if you have enough keys, that is. In this one, if you have the right combination of black hole location and time, and you try the wrong one first, you're dead. So, unless you want to cheat and just try the different one until you get it right, you have to start over again. Yes. So this reminds me in a way of Citadel of Chaos, in that also the path you choose is really important, but also, and of course, different there is the choice of spells you bring along. And in this one, there are no items to pick up or buy. There are no potions. There's your crew, and you just have to find the right path. So it's very different, and it's a little bit more like a non-game book interactive fiction story, in that the gaming elements are just sort of not essential to finding the right path. They're sort of added on, and they do add a lot of fun though, because I really enjoyed playing my last time because I had the battle with the Manslayer robot. Really enjoyed that, and so any of those things, it just add a bit of excitement, I think, that gaming aspect of it. But in this book, it is possible to win without having got exposed to it, and still it would be quite nice, but I think it would be less exciting if you actually follow the correct path, as it were. So that said, let's have a look at the map now. I've tried to structure this map a little bit so that different planets, the meteor swarm is one bit there. The meeting with the Ganzigite ship is sort of its own cluster of paragraph references. And as you can see, there are very few choke points in this one. You start off up here and you start being all in one place, but the next choke point is down here, and the next one after that is actually down here, just before the end. So that means you got different paths, and they do sometimes sort of overlap in different points. So again, the same thing was also in Citadel of Chaos. There actually weren't that many choke points, but the paths overlap at different points, which is a bit more sophisticated, I think, and more fun to map out, and it looks a bit more interesting. There's also lots of places where you can bypass large areas of the map, and of course that is because this is in space. You are given the choice either to beam down on the planet or keep moving somewhere else, and so you have these long lines taking you just past the planet. Like here, for instance, particularly, you can see this point, and then there's this point, and the only thing between them is this section here, which is the planet. Now, I'm not going to show you the optimum path now, actually, but the perceptive of you might have spotted that it says typo in my search field down here, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 paragraphs that light up. And that is because this is so far the typo champion of these books that I have played. By typo, I don't usually mean a typographical error. There's no spelling mistakes. Nothing has been typeset the wrong way. Usually I'm talking about editing errors or continuity errors. And there's 3 different kinds. 2 of them are related. I'll talk you through those. One more thing before I say anything about that. At the top here, there are 3 paragraphs not connected to anything, and that is, of course, the rules for combat. 3 different kinds of combat: hand-to-hand, ship-to-ship, and phaser. These have been given paragraph numbers in the book. They're actually after the end of the book. They are 341, 42, and 43, and a 340 paragraph book, not 400 like the usual is. And they could have been in the beginning, but very often you play through and you would only need one of them. So I think in some way it actually really makes sense to put them in the book itself, and you don't have to read it right away. Now, the 3 different errors. First one is a slight text flow continuity error. Not a major one. It doesn't actually disrupt your gameplay so much. Now, there's a place where you beam up into your ship and you're given a choice to go to one of 2 planets. I think it is the grey planet or the purple planet. If you choose to go to the purple planet, your next paragraph has some things happening, and at the end of it you're given a choice again to go to the grey planet or the purple planet. So the first choice doesn't seem to make sense, or maybe it does, but and if you in the previous paragraph you choose the grey planet, your next paragraph only says go to the other paragraph, which is the same one for choosing the purple planet. So it's a dummy paragraph that seems to have been unintended, or maybe there's a placeholder that never got removed. So, because it's not a good dummy paragraph. What should have happened in those paragraphs is the first one would not have given you the choice of where to go yet. And then the dummy paragraph should just be removed and probably just added as a dummy to something else where it makes sense, where you just go from one to the next thing. Or you could have added one more paragraph to the maze that you get into, for instance. That would have worked fine as well, because you just add whatever paragraphs are left to the maze and you're good to go. So not a major typo, doesn't really ruin anything, but then there's another one, and that has to do with skill checks. And when I was playing last time, I did show you a few examples where you are given a skill check and the skill result as a failure or success, the paragraphs have been swapped around. So when you actually make your skill roll, you are brought to the paragraph where you were supposed to be brought if you failed, and vice versa. I think there's about 6 or 7 of those, which is a lot, actually. And it's related to another error, which I've also spotted. And before I tell you what that is, I'll just tell you what that is. It says, well, when you do a skill check, I'll just have to explain that first. The rules of fighting fantasy are very simple. A skill check, you roll against your skill, and if it's equal or lower, it's a success. If it's higher, then it's a failure. If you want to indicate that a skill check is harder to do, you give yourself penalties. So for instance, you would say that this is particularly hard to do, and so you add 2 to your roll, for instance. Or you say that for the purposes of this skill check, your skill is 2 lower. Of course, for consistency, you should only use one of those, but yes. Now in this book, because of the swapped around paragraph references, it's obvious something has happened with the skill checks during editing that messed them up. So the editor is to blame, not Steve Jackson so much. Although I suppose the editor was probably well-meaningly trying to make Steve Jackson's writing more consistent, because in later fighting fantasy books you find that all luck and skill checks follow a very set kind of formula, where it says if you roll 2 dice, if it exceeds your skill, go to this paragraph. If it's equal or lower than your skill, then go to this paragraph. I can't remember if that's actually the wording, but the thing is, it's consistent. It's exactly the same for every skill check in the book, and for most books, from one book to the next, it's still the same for all the books. But I'm thinking Steve Jackson, of course these are quite early days as well, he was maybe writing it slightly differently in different places, and the editor thought he would tidy it up. And that includes swapping around the wording or the paragraphs or both. So, and obviously this is a job that was done at 4 in the morning after 20 cups of coffee. Somebody was absolutely exhausted, and the deadline was at 9 o'clock in the morning to hand in the manuscript, finished, edited. That's what it looks like to me. Although I would have done a better job if I had 20 cups of coffee at 4 in the morning. But that's messed it up completely, in that now you have lots of places where the references are wrong, and also places where it says equal or higher for the failed result rather than just higher than the skill. And they're both related because all these errors, they crept in the same time. The first time I saw it said equal or higher for a failed skill attempt, I thought, oh, maybe it's supposed to be more difficult. But once I did the whole map and I found the pattern in this, it's obvious that was not intended at all. So these are errors. So every time and sometimes, of course, when you make a skill check and it's successful and you see the next paragraph, you might think that, oh, maybe none of it would have been successful because you see that you fail. Or if you fail your roll and you look at the next one, you think, oh yeah, maybe I would have been successful anyway. And maybe if I'd rolled better, I would have had a more successful roll. Something more exciting would have happened. But that's not the case. So if you play this book, make sure that every time you do a skill check, make sure that you are rolling equal against equal or lower, and also double check that your page references are correct, because they might be swapped around. So check both and see which is worse. If you fail a check, and see which is better if you succeed a skill check, that's the one you're going to. Yes. Also, I'd be very curious to know, because this is the first edition, first printing. Is it the first printing? The first edition, certainly. Yes, first edition, first printing of this book. Do any of you have a later printing of this book, and can you verify for me that the skill checks are in fact wrong in the next one? I'll actually show you some of the places that have these errors now. So if you check, for instance, paragraph 75, it says equal or higher when it's supposed to say higher. So that's one error. Paragraph 75. There's paragraph, of course, the sort of needless dummy one is in 292, and also 130 is the one that refers to the needless dummy paragraph. Not so important though. I'm more curious about the skill checks. In 101 there is again an equal or higher. That should have been just higher. And 210, there's actually two errors at once, because the page references are swapped, and it also says equal or higher, I believe. That's in 210. So, and 124, it says equals or exceeds when it should have been exceeds. 35, there's again, the references are swapped, and there's a few other ones as well. I might put a list in the description of this video. So if any of those, if anyone can just have a look at, if you have a later edition, have a look and see if they're still there, because that's something that really should have been sorted out. It really shouldn't have been printed until that was sorted out. But if I'm sure somebody should have noticed this really quickly, and it should have been sorted out by the second printing, or certainly. So yeah. So if you have a later edition and you can look this up, please let me know. I'll be interested to see if it was corrected. I think that's actually the main thing I'm saying about this now, because there's no calculation, there's no simulation. And oh yeah, here at the end, of course, you have this little umbrella shape that is all the possible combinations of black hole locations and time star dates for when they are in the right position. And of course, only one correct one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 incorrect combinations. There would have been one more, but there is one, of course, place rather early on where you're given, you can find either a star date or a location for a black hole. You can't actually get both pieces of information at the same time, and so there's actually there would have been more combinations if it hadn't been for that. And of course, if you don't have any coordinates at all, then there's this little thing on the side there where that's where you head for the same end, which is not the positive end. So there's only two endings that involve going through a black hole, and one is the right one is the wrong one, which is where most of your paths lead. So I think that's enough said about the game. I'm not going to show you the right path through now. Actually, of course, if you do get my map on Patreon, you can still see it. What I usually do to mark it is I use an asterisk, and of course you can search for it in Twine. So anyway, next up, City of Thieves, and I'm very excited to play this one because I did have this book when I was 12, but I can't remember playing it. I know it's been a long time. I mean, it has been 28 years and stuff, but 28 years? You're about kidding. A bit of miscalculation. It's been 33 years. It's been 33 years since I had this book. Or since I'm sure I had this book 33 years ago. But I can't remember playing it. I do remember though, because I was the reason I remember exactly how long it was is because I remember where I was when I had an idea. I was not quite 13 years old yet. I was 12. And I had this book with me when I went to sort of camp school for a week. And I do remember that I didn't actually get to play it, but I was reading the introduction, and it just occurred to me when I was doing it, I'll read the background here, that I wanted to translate it into Norwegian. I don't know why I thought that, and I thought, oh, it would be fun to be a translator someday. See, well, 12-year-olds, they think things like that. And so I actually started translating this book into Norwegian. I'm sure I did most of the first page, and I'm not sure I got any further than that. Now, it is quite possible that my idea of translating this book did confuse me and distract me quite a bit from actually playing it. So I still can't remember having played it before, and also this book doesn't look like it remembers being played either so much. It's got a bit of a fold here, but spine is neat, and also the pages are not as yellow as you'd expect from a book this age, because it's also the first printing, isn't it? No, actually, this is not the first printing. This is the sixth printing, actually. First edition, sixth printing, 1984. So, in any case, it's from 1984, and it's not as yellow as the other ones I have from 1984, which means it's been kept in a more favourable conditions than many of the other books I've got. So I'm really looking forward to playing that because it often ranks at the highest spot on people's favourite fighting fantasy book lists. There must be a reason for it, so I'm quite excited about that. So I think that concludes it for now. Starship Traveller, loads of errors, and I will write a list of them for you, and I will put it on my Patreon together with my map. Or I might, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to do, because I haven't got a system for how I'm going to do my erratas yet, so I might wait a little bit with that and just try to collate what I've got so far for the other books. But I will put my map on Patreon first of all, and I will get to the errors at some point. So, yeah, I think that's it for today actually. Thanks for watching again, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you next time for more fighting fantasy and City of Thieves. There might be other videos coming up as well. Of course, I'll still have to do my Earl Grey brewing video. And got some ideas for that. And I've got some other things I'm working on as well. So, but it should maybe be within the next few days or next week. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just playing it by ear these days, just like everyone else who is staying at home for obvious reasons. So, well, more or less obvious reasons. So, thank you for watching, and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.